welcome to episode 103 of the GVGCast. I'm your host this week, Steve Bowling, and as you can see, I'm joined by my good friends and GVG partners, Derek Bittner and Ash Paulson.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
It has been a week. I missed the last episode, and I missed all of you out there in internet land or on Twitch. How have you guys been? How's it been going?
Well, I'm doing all right. I too missed last week because I was prepping for my wife's birthday. My wife's birthday was on Saturday, and so we had a party for her on Friday night as well as all throughout Saturday. So I was like, you know what? I need to take this extra time to make sure it goes off as perfectly as possible. So I too missed last week. I think it was just you and Daniel last week, right, Derek?
Yeah, it was just the two of us, and Daniel, champ that he is, ran the show and did a great job. I'm having issues with my computer when my I'm on Discord and it will just freeze up, and I just had to stay off cam. That's all I could do in order to just actually stay in there. And it did the job. It did the job. And at least with Steve running the show, I can be on camera because we use a different program. But it's just what it is. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody around here was around for this, but I might have said it last week. I can't remember, but I found out I'm using a 10-year-old graphics card. So
yeah.
Right.
Derek is essentially running streams from a Nintendo Switch at this point. So we probably need to get him upgraded. This is a great opportunity for me to shout out, by the way. Like, we're all very lucky. Some of us have had computers gifted to us. Like Ash got one from a very generous community member. Daniel got one from NZXT when they found out his wasn't working. Brandon and I were impatient, and we just spent money we didn't have to buy, new computers that we're still paying off. But NZXT, if you're out there, our boy Derek needs your help. He could use one. But for those of you that don't know, we all kind of run streams and we try to keep them the same, but obviously not all of us have the same stuff. So some streams look different than others, but we do what we can. We just want to entertain you. We can still talk about video games.
Like choppiness when I transition scenes, because I stream on my own and I never have any issues, but I also stay on one screen the entire time. We're bouncing around a bit because this is highly more produced than what I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's got a lot more hardware behind it. Trust me, this comes with a price tag. But it's one of those things where we do the best we can with what we have. I can't be here for every episode, just like Derek or Ash or Daniel. We rotate in whoever's available. But
right,
we're glad you're here with us today. We have a fun show lined up. But before we jump into news and everything, we do have one patron birthday. I actually saw you chatting. And for those of you saying I was a little bit low, I raised my mic while Derek was chatting. So let me know if I sound acceptable, because I'm the only one I can't hear. So let me pull that up. That was Cassius 315, I believe, whose birthday it is. 335 on May 14th, exactly a week away from my daughter's birthday. So happy birthday to you, Cassius, and happy birthday in advance, Avery. I hope you're not watching. You shouldn't be watching me.
You better not be, or be grounded for your birthday.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found out she actually did pull up my podcast, our podcast at school. Because someone was like, what does your dad do? And she pulled up like one of the worst clips she could. I don't know what it was.
Oh,
but
no.
I was just cussing up a storm in the clip. I was like, great.
Amazing.
What a just role model you set for those kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Like, fucking Sephiroth.
Yeah. That
to
reminds
a room full
me
of fourth graders. Fifth graders. Sorry, Avery. You're so mature. But
not to call her out or anything, but I was dying today with my mom is heading down to the beach this weekend, and so she stopped by last night to just not have to make it all one big drive and actually get to visit and whatnot. So we were hanging out today, just out back on our porch, just chatting and whatnot. She gets a call from my sister. And this is related to the swearing up a storm stuff, because my mom answers, puts her on speaker so we can all hear. It's like, hey, how you doing? And she just starts cursing, like some of the harshest cursing
Nice.
I've heard in a while.
Wow.
Because she got cut off on the road, nearly got into an accident, and the guy that cut her off and nearly caused her to have this accident was the one like flipped her off after it. So she doesn't have the greatest road rage to begin with, so she was, oof. It was some of the most colorful cursing I've heard in a while.
Woof. That's not
Like,
fun.
if looks could kill, I didn't even see her. I think that, whew, oh boy.
To go back to something you said a little bit ago, Steve, and this is about to be my most epic segue ever in the history of GVGcast. Speaking of fucking Sephiroth, there's not a whole lot I can say, obviously, but I finished Rebirth since the last time we have chatted.
Ash, I thought that was going in a very different direction.
Too,
nope,
nope. It sure isn't. Fanfic stuff coming out.
But those two words come to mind when I think of the end of Rebirth and everything I have witnessed and seen. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody out there who hasn't finished it. But Steve, you and I need to have a conversation, my friend, about the end of Rebirth and where this craziness is going. I'm thinking maybe you and I were talking about the possibility of a Patreon exclusive discussion, since it may be a little bit too late to have it on the main channel. But those of us who have finished Rebirth having maybe like a Patreon exclusive spoilerific discussion on the craziness that is the end of that game.
I would love that. I would absolutely love to do that. Name time and place, and
hell yeah,
I'm in, because Rebirth was a hell of a ride. I will admit it has shockingly already been dethroned for me for Game of the Year. We all know what my Game of the Year is. I won't labor the point. I will labor that point later this week in a video for y'all.
Right.
I find it interesting. He's not here, obviously, but Brandon has mentioned to us that Seven Rebirth might have also got replaced for him as his Game of the Year, thanks to that Animal Well, which I've not had a chance to play at all. But I'm like, what the heck?
I tried a little bit of it, and unfortunately, kind of like Hollow Knight, it's a game where I can see why it's brilliant. It's a game where I can see why so many people love it, but I'm bouncing off of it personally. Like I played a couple hours of Animal Well, and I'm just like, I don't know if I really want to continue, even though I can see why it's great. I'm just not sure it's for me.
Yeah, I need to try it. I know that. So for some reason, Sony had like a sale on the enhanced versions of PlayStation Plus, and since I was like, oh, it's like $30 to upgrade my membership for the rest of the year, so I did, and apparently that gives me access to Animal Well, so I'm gonna try it there. I just haven't yet. I'm very excited to try it.
Speaking of great indie games, though, I did after finishing Rebirth is kind of like my next game. I decided to jump into Pepper Grinder. Had a blast with it. What a game. That game is a total vibe. Reminds me a whole lot of like the Pixel Junk Shooter series, just kind of like a lo-fi jazzy soundtrack. You just kind of get into a vibe with the gameplay and the mechanics, and they're subtly, later stages subtly introduce new layers to the core drilling mechanic. It's just a really cool game, and you can beat it in like 5 to 6 hours. It's a bite-sized experience, but I highly recommend it to anyone out there who likes platformers. It is really cool.
It was looking pretty good in all those directs and whatnot. Well, indie directs.
Yeah.
So,
before we get too much further, I do have to tell a quick story because this was I think it got lost in our partner chat, but Brandon was there to react to it, and he thought it was pretty funny. So I think you guys will too. One of the main side effect of the medication I take for depression is really vivid dreams, both dreams and nightmares. And the nightmares are serious business most of the time. But fortunately, I had one more recently that was kind of more of a silly nightmare, still very vivid, but kind of veered into silly territory. And it involves all of you guys, all of us.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
So, I love a good nightmare that I start.
Right. So the first part of it was pretty terrifying. I was being haunted by some sort of entity, as it happens in nightmares. And nobody believed me. There's something in our apartment that was haunting me, like talking to me, and I could see vision. It was creeping me out. Nobody believed me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going on a road trip to get away from everything. I don't want to be haunted anymore. No one believes me, whatever. I'm going on a road trip. So a few days into this road trip I'm on, Sakurai, out of nowhere, announces Fighters Pass 3 with the debut shadow drop character of Marvin the Martian. And
okay,
you got your multiverses in your Smash Brothers,
right? And immediately all of you guys are like, Ash, where are you? Sakurai, Fighters Pass 3 Smash, we have to discuss now. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, you guys, I'm on a road trip and I can't. And you were all so upset with me. and I felt so guilty for not being around for this Fighters Pass
Oh
3
no.
reveal Marvin the Martian discussion. And that's my story. But it was when I
I
woke up, I was like, thank God that wasn't real.
I love that your nightmare includes Smash.
I
Like,
know,
Yeah.
right? That's the first time that's happened, to be fair. I have dreamt about Smash. I've dreamt about like things that I want happening in Smash, but never had a nightmare incorporating of all characters, Marvin the Martian. I don't even know where that came from.
I could not tell you.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, that this stuff I take though, it produces some vivid, weird ass dreams. So I'm just gonna blame the medication.
well, Derek, what have you been playing lately?
I have not had the chance to play a whole lot, as usual. Just trying to stay on top of what I can. I continue to not have played much of Rebirth. My main source of playing, I think, games is my streams, and I just recently beat Crosscode, and
Hmm,
Ooh,
that's an excellent
nice.
game.
I've heard good
The
things.
puzzles can get really tough though. Like holy crap, I was struggling, and they're also the type that you finally do solve them. It's like, oh, of course. So that that there's that trickiness, but yeah, just beat that. I'm very close to finishing Yakuza 0.
Oh,
Finally,
right.
Nice.
I'm on the final chapter of that. Although I'm not able to go directly to it because I still need to finish up Majima's Cabaret Club mini game, get the end of that story. But otherwise, I'm set to go. And I like, cleared 3 chapters the last time I streamed it. It was like, holy crap, this plot is just moving now. And um, boy, it gets intense. It's like it is such a juxtaposition between your main campaign stories for Yakuza and then your side stories where it's just goofy as hell. Like it is
Oh yeah.
just as serious as it can get.
Nice.
Uh, in Yakuza 0, where you played the main story, and honestly, one of the more brutal sequences I've witnessed, involving some torture. For those who know, it's like, oh
Mhm.
my god.
Maybe I never
um,
made it there. I feel like I dropped it pretty close to the end,
that's a
but
shame.
I love the game. It was just one of those things where like, working in this industry, you're playing something for fun and then something you have to play comes out and you just kind of forget the things you want to play.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um I'll have to revisit my save from that and see where I'm at because I don't think I saw a torture scene, but I also
If
felt like I
you
was close to the end.
if you mainline just a story, you can get through it pretty quickly. It's just easy to get distracted by all the side
Yeah, it
content.
is. And I love the
Uh,
side quests because they're usually weird as
They're
hell.
so wacky. Like
yeah,
it's
it's really fun.
Yakuza's MO. Like a Dragon 7's like that as well. Like the side stories are wacky as hell, but the main story is dark. Like so
Right.
dark. Yeah.
It's a such a strange juxtaposition, but it's fascinating. It really sucks you in. And I'm not going to get to Yakuza 1 in a while, but I do want to, like, it does make me want to play more of the series. And I own a lot of them. I just haven't taken the time to play them. So it's something I want to do there. And then otherwise, of course, still working I'm doing my best to get through Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker so I can be ready for Dawn Trail when that releases in July.
Nice.
Nice.
Uh,
That's awesome.
and I've already like I don't know if you guys saw this, but they announced a Mountain Dew exclusive mount
Oh boy.
for the game.
Good God, no, I didn't
Uh,
see that.
and if you can earn points from bottle caps of Mountain Dew, and then you can trade them in for to get that special mount. And I have enlisted a few friends to get me points since I don't drink Mountain Dew anymore. But you'll like this, Ash. The mount
Okay.
is a zoo. What is it called? It's a mountain zoo.
Oh, that's excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, that
It's
is excellent.
and
That's
it's just sort
Azran
of
level.
it sort of has the colors of Mountain Dew to it. So it's just
Nice.
sort of funny.
That's
Uh,
great.
Other thing I do want to mention real quick, that's not video game related that I've been doing is I was contacted by the author of a recent book called The Most Relaxing Video Games. And I've actually been reading through
Ooh.
it. He gave me
Oh,
through there, and it's been interesting because I don't usually play a lot of this, but what kind of drew me in is the fact that it's not what you'd expect. It's not just cozy game after cozy game after cozy game. It's games that elicit that sense of coziness, like for example, you got, of course, Animal Crossing in here, but then they also talk about the Art Academy series and how they can sort of give that sort of relaxing vibes to it, or Heck, Donkey Kong Country, which is kind of a hard game, but you get into that groove and you just sort of feel that
Yeah.
relaxed vibes. And even Greatest Attorney Chronicles, which you'd probably almost agree with that too, is Ash.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
So I am curious, is Death Stranding in that book?
No, Death Stranding did not make it into this book, but I
Interesting.
mean, it's not a super long one either. It's like I got a bitmap book where it's 400 or 500 pages of just all these RPGs. This is a much more cozy, about 200-ish pages,
Okay.
and it's but it also takes more time on each individual game. It's not just this is what the game is about, this is sort of the history of it, this is how it kind of plays. It's more the vibe that each one gives.
Nice. Okay.
For the
For those of
author.
you wondering, I wasn't joking about Death Stranding. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but when it came out, when it was contemporary, a lot of people said that just running around delivering packages and not really doing the main quest was kind of chill. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
I
thought
just
that's
I
sprung to
mean,
mind.
it can be. It totally can be. And there are some legit just chill games like Unpacking. I don't know if you guys played
Oh, I
Unpacking
love
before, but
Unpacking.
I
oh
haven't
my
played that.
god,
I want to though. Yeah. I
One of
just
dude,
hope
that's a vibe game.
I hope Knights is in that book because Knights is maybe my favorite relaxing game of all time.
I
I
will
agree with
say,
Like
that one, but unfortunately not. But hey, that just makes it like, hey, volume 2.
volume 2.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Check out the
will.
book and maybe you'll get a volume 2.
Outrun, but God, it has to be in
I,
there.
Outrun is in here, Ash.
Yes.
Nice.
Nice.
Specifically
Okay.
Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast.
Hell
Oh
yeah.
God, I want to
Hell yeah.
play
I
So
that.
love that game so much.
But
they
yeah, it's I have been playing a lot of indies lately, and between like Little Kitty Big City and other stuff, one game that I think should have made the list and almost certainly didn't because it only recently came out is a Sticky Business, which is the one from the direct about just making stickers. They sent me a
Oh
code for it, and
yeah.
I was like, I want to check this out, and it's just surprisingly fun. Like you just design stickers and ship them to people. It sounds like it's not enough to hold a game together, but it really is. It's quite a lot of fun. Other than that, I've been playing the PC port of Ghost of Tsushima. Sony sent me a code for that. Thank you, Sony. And I tried it out on the Steam Deck, which it's shockingly good. Like
Yeah.
it goes well beyond what I thought the Steam Deck was capable of. It looks every bit as good as the PS4 version of the game, or at least when it's shrunk down to 7 inches, it looks that good. Um, and it plays at a rock solid 30 FPS. Like it doesn't budge from that 30 FPS mark on Steam Deck. And on PC,
Nice.
it just I don't know. My PC is not super great, but it runs at 60 FPS without breaking a sweat with
Dude,
everything turned all the way up, and it looks, in
dang.
my opinion, better than the PS5
I,
version.
I love how you're like, oh, not that great, and you crank it to max settings just fine. Like, yeah, rub it in.
I saw the screenshot you posted on Twitter, Steve, of your ultra wide monitor running like with Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm like, it looks amazing.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks so good.
I gotta say, I originally was playing the PlayStation ports on like a traditional monitor or even a TV, and I didn't really understand why, that was like what was the special thing about that, right? Like why play them on PC? But I started once I got the ultra wide and I started playing like Horizon and God of War and stuff like that with, a wider aspect ratio. I'm like, okay, this is actually cool because it's a different way to enjoy these games. Like it looks and feels different. So I've been kind of re-exploring Sony's releases on PC, especially in the wake of the Helldivers 2 controversy and all of that. I was like, is it really as bad as they say? And I'm not, what, I've just learned that not to offer my opinion on stuff like that. But what I am going to say is that there is value to having those, even if you have the games elsewhere. Like there's good reasons to own those games on PC if you have different a different config, right? Like if you have an ultra wide monitor or you're playing them portably on the Steam Deck, there's cool reasons to have PlayStation PC games. And I've been kind of obsessing over that lately. I think I've already put like 6 hours into Ghost of Tsushima, even though I platinumed it twice already. But
Oh my god,
That's a
I
game that I need to go back and play. That I
same
really want to.
same
I know
is
I'll like it.
same.
yeah. It's definitely one to pull out of the backlog when you have the time. It's not a long game either. I think it's like 20 hours.
Oh,
Okay,
really?
I
I
appreciate
thought
it.
it'd be
You
longer
can beat
because it
it
is
pretty
sort of
fast.
open world.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of like older Assassin's Creed, back when Assassin's Creed didn't have
Okay.
like tons of stuff all over the map.
Oh, I
Um,
never realized that.
yeah, it's really nice if you appreciate the older ones, but feel like the later entries got way too complicated. Ghost of Tsushima kind of scratches that itch.
I
Which I want to
appreciate that.
talk about Assassin's Creed in a little bit, but before that, I, have either of you pre-ordered Thousand Year Door? Like, are you guys picking that up next
Oh, I'm
Friday
definitely
or
I
picking
today?
it up, but I'm not much for pre-orders anymore. I'm just gonna go get it when it comes out. Like,
Yeah, I have
I don't need
to
to pre-order it.
I have to watch my funds. So it looks gorgeous. It looks great. I still got Rebirth to play. I'm sorry,
That's
Mario.
fair. That's
Yeah, I
fair.
mean, I would put Rebirth first
It
if I was still if I hadn't finished it. Rebirth
and
absolutely would come
and the
first.
other thing is, I am one of the lucky ones. I own a physical copy of Thousand Year Door on GameCube. It's one I had the original
Same.
of, and obviously there are fantastic upgrades to this version. But I know the basic story, and it's not.
Yeah, that is fair. If you've played it, like, well, Daniel in chat, day one, which I agree. I'm there day
Same.
one as well.
Same.
Um, I thought this was interesting though. Did you guys see that Amazon and Walmart canceled all physical
Yeah.
pre-orders for Thousand Year
Really?
Door? What do you guys think is happening there? Because it's not
Did,
every store, but just these two, like they're just not.
did they take more than they could handle?
Well, apparently it's all pre-orders, all online pre-orders they canceled. They sent a thing basically saying you have to go to a store to get it. We're sorry. Here's like a coupon to make up for the inconvenience. But if you ordered a copy online from Amazon or Walmart, you're not getting it. Like
Well, that
and it
sucks.
reminds me of back in like the Wii U 3DS era where Amazon just didn't sell anything Nintendo for a long time. I'm wondering if Nintendo cut them off for some reason, like maybe Street Date Break or something like that.
Well, I don't know if there's any truth to this, but I had read that there was some directive from Nintendo that they could only sell it in stores for some reason. Who knows if that's true? That's just anecdotal, but that's what I read.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what that would be
see
though.
Uncle Silver in the Twitch chat saying, "I suspect that there's a secret to this game that Nintendo is trying to keep from getting out early," which
Hmm,
that does sound like a Nintendo tactic.
So it
that
does
sounds
sound
exciting.
very Nintendo. What I will say, so I used to work retail, specifically the video game counter at Target for many years. And what I was told, I never saw it happen, but what I was told was that if you broke Street Date specifically with Nintendo too many times, like
Ooh,
Hmm,
they'd just cut your store off. They'd be like, "Hey, you can't. We're not going to
hmm.
send you anything because you're selling it early."
yeah.
And I'm wondering because, as people are correctly pointing out in the Twitch chat, Best Buy didn't cancel, GameStop didn't cancel. It's not that Nintendo is trying to keep this as an in-store only thing. I'm wondering if maybe just Amazon and Walmart have screwed up one too many times and been like, sent games out early to people. And well, we all know what happens when a game comes out early. It is the 1 year anniversary of Tears of the Kingdom. So remember,
Yeah.
Tears of the
Yeah,
Kingdom
Oh
got online
God.
pretty early from people getting it,
Yeah.
legitimately getting it early and then uploading the ROM. So I wonder if maybe this is just one of those drama things. But I agree with Uncle Silver. And by the way, hi, thank you for hanging out in the chat with us.
of
Yeah.
course, always
That there's
great to have them.
probably something Nintendo is keeping hidden from us. Now, the funny thing is, and this is a little inside baseball-y, but the three of us, we've covered Nintendo for years and years. We've
Hmm.
all reviewed games early from Nintendo, and we don't unfortunately have the ability to do that currently. But what I can tell you is that 9 times out of 10, Nintendo lets reviewers reveal this stuff. Like, so if there's
Mhm.
something like secret, um, like a whole ass side quest, it's very rare for Nintendo to not allow them to mention it. But if you want to get even further inside baseball, one big outlet will leak it anyway, even if it's not allowed to. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking like one of the mega outlets like IGN or something, they're gonna be like, oh hey, here's this thing, and they're just gonna like I don't know what happens in those situations. I've always wanted to be a fly on the wall in the room, like
Yeah,
because I can tell you from covering Nintendo, we've gotten embargoes, and one of the things that's the most annoying about specifically Nintendo embargoes is they will say, like right on page one, they'll just print out a huge fucking spoiler, like something you
oh
don't want
yeah,
to know. They'll be like, "Don't tell your readers that Ganon is the final boss," and I'm like, "Damn it!"
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trust me. There was I Didn't happen with Xenoblade 2, thankfully, but there were certain games I just got to read through the written embargo list to make sure I didn't, mess up anything. And then all of a sudden it's like, don't reveal this or this or this, sort of thing. It's like, damn it, I didn't want to know that. It's just
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
I stopped reading it at a certain point. I'll read it after I'm done.
Yep, it's a well-known thing in the industry these days that when you get an embargo, specifically from Nintendo, you just set it to the side, you play the game, and then before you go to prep your coverage after you finish, then you read it, and you're like, okay, can't talk about these things,
That's
can't talk
exactly
about
it.
these
Mhm.
things, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're gonna ruin the game for yourself before you play
I
it.
I do recommend reading Pokemon ones though, if only because they always have specific Pokemon you can't show. So if
Yeah,
your team
that's
has that Pokemon in it, well, good luck with your
Yeah.
footage.
and to be clear, I want to point out because some people are popping off in the chat about it. I'm not like dunking on Nintendo, nor am I saying that they're more strict than others. They really aren't.
No.
Like it's pretty standard stuff. It's just the way where they put the spoilers in the positioning of the embargo. Like
Yeah.
every
Mhm.
embargo has spoilers about the game because how else do they tell you what not to show? But Nintendo likes to put it like right at the front, like right at the
Yeah.
beginning when with
Yep.
all the other
Sometimes they play
information that you
coy and be
shouldn't.
like this chapter, but not every game has chapters or anything like that. So
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they'll
That
do
happened.
that. Some people will even throw in screenshots. Review guides are an interesting thing. When you review a game, you always get stuff you're told you can't talk about. Nintendo honestly is traditionally on the looser side with
well,
allowing you to talk about certain things.
they
Whereas some
were
companies will
on
be
the
like,
looser
you can't
side.
include this whole game mode, or you can't mention
Hmm.
85% of the game. Atlas, the worst. The worst
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
by
Oh
a
yeah.
long shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, Steve, Nintendo used to be looser.
Yes.
um,
Right.
but the funny thing is, and I am 90% sure it's because of our work at Game Explained that the embargoes became tighter because we kept finding loopholes in what they were saying to
Yep.
Hmm.
get certain things out sooner than they wanted and and talk about certain
Especially with
things.
Breath of the Wild, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, they I noticed as time was going on, they got much more specific as with each release.
I remember Smash 4's embargo, or I should say Smash Wii U's embargo was insane. And that kind of happened to me, Steve, where you couldn't talk about certain stages, but by saying that, that also spoiled for me that those were the last unlockable stages in the game. I'm like, damn it, I didn't want to know that, man. But
Yeah.
that's definitely it happened with Sea of Stars as well. Not a Nintendo game, of course, but Sea of Stars had a major spoiler in what you're allowed to talk about it. And I was like, oh man.
Oh, I think I can imagine which one it is.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely ran right into that. But yeah, it's an interesting perspective to have from from where we're coming from, having dealt with so many different embargoes and encountering spoilers in that specific way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, real quick, the one thing I want to say before we go out of this, because I see a lot of people talking about Square Enix, and I'm gonna jump to them in just a moment. But Ash and I did the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door preview, which was an
Yes.
embargoed Nintendo thing. Thank you to Nintendo for allowing us to do that. But I really want to thank the audience because holy shit, you guys turned out
Yes.
for that. I don't. We're not a big channel on YouTube. We're really
No.
not a big channel here, but on YouTube we're not a really big channel, and we
Yeah.
almost got a one
Yeah.
to one viewership to subscriber ratio for that. Like we almost got as many views as we have subs, which we're closing in on 170,000 subs. So to get that many views on that video is ridiculous. We beat IGN, we beat
I was gonna
Nintendo
say we
Life.
beat
Like
IGN.
that's
like
big.
what?
So
I
thank
don't
you
know
guys for
what
showing
the
us
hell do
that
we
there's
do?
you guys.
Because you two knocked it out of park, of course, but like, how
Yeah,
did we get
honestly,
noticed?
when Ash told me that we were the most viewed out of that preview event, I was shocked. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy. Thank you guys for showing us that that's stuff you want to see. We'll do more of it
Yeah.
if we're
Thank you.
allowed to, because we're obviously at the mercy of Nintendo for that.
We get
But
one per year.
yeah,
I know.
exactly.
But
So we
like,
will we will keep working on that. We will not have a review whenever reviews drop for that, unfortunately. But we're continuing to show this stuff. When you guys turn out and you show that to Nintendo, that's the best way to tell them we should get to review games. So
yeah.
thank you guys for
And
that.
speaking of little inside baseball, that's something that Steve and I really particularly appreciate because I know, Steve, you and I are more traditional content guys. Like we're more traditionally trained journalism style guys. And so that's the kind of content that you and I tend to excel at and want to do more of. And so that means a lot to us specifically that you turned out for our preview, because we want to do more stuff like that, but we can't always justify it if it's not getting the views. In this case, it got the views and way beyond. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
The,
guys. But I did
the nice
promise I
thing would
was.
be if
Oh,
they
go.
like, well, just saying, more inside baseball is like, be really nice to keep this up for a lead up into the Switch 2.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
please. Trust me.
Mhm.
Trust me, we want to review the Switch 2 so bad. We will, like, even if it's late, but it'd be nice to not do it late. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said we were going to talk about Square Enix, and we're going to talk about them a little bit. Square Enix has this week kind of shifted business plans, is a good way to put it. They've basically announced that they're going to focus on quantity over quality, and to not
Or
try
I
to
think
put out.
quality over quantity, the other way around.
Oh, did I say quantity over quality? I meant to
You
say
did,
Yeah.
quality
yeah.
over
The
quantity.
quantity
Yeah,
over
Yeah.
quality is
just
what they were doing. I did a video specifically about how many freaking games they released in a year.
It's like 27 or something, right? In
I think it was like
2022?
27. Yeah.
It's crazy.
yeah, that's wild. And obviously they've been overextending themselves, overinvesting. But I'm a little worried about this news because that Nvidia leak from how many years ago had
Mm.
Chrono Trigger as a remake on it.
No, that was Chrono Cross, and that came out.
Oh, never mind.
It didn't have Trigger in it.
I'm no longer worried.
I'm
Yeah,
not
don't
as
worry.
worried. I still want a Chrono Trigger
But it did
remake.
have FF Tactics in there, though,
Did
and
have
that still
tactics,
hasn't
and that hurts because
materialized.
I imagine that's just not coming now. But didn't
Yeah.
they? I don't have all the specifics in front of me, but they basically said they're going to. This is the weird bit. So they say they're going to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Have they not been doing that? I feel like that's what they've been
No,
doing.
they haven't actually,
Yes,
because
yeah.
they're very much cozied up to exclusives for a long time, like exclusive for a year. Final Fantasy 7 remake and probably Rebirth exclusive for a year on PlayStation before going to PC. Or when they do go to PC, I think like with Kingdom Hearts, didn't they snuggle up to the Epic Game Store?
Yeah,
And you can
it's
only
still
get
not.
games
Ooh,
through
that's
that.
right.
They kept getting these little like packages like, hey, you made a lot of, like, we'll be exclusive for us and we'll give you this extra money. And those haven't really paid off. I think they realized like, no, if we actually put our stuff on multiple platforms, and they mentioned Nintendo, I think they realized like, okay, with Nintendo's next system coming out, we need to make sure we can get get our games on Nintendo, because good God, they sell
Yeah.
well in that system. I don't think Xbox will give them a boost, but PC and Nintendo, absolutely.
If
Yeah.
they can
I'll go.
somehow get, if they can somehow get, downscale whatever they have to get Remake and Rebirth on Switch 2, that would make such a huge difference for those game sales, because I do think like the reason 16 and Rebirth have, in their words, underperformed sales wise is because of that PS5 exclusivity at launch. I mean,
Mhm.
consider the fact that the PS5's install base is less than half of what the PS4's was when Remake
Right.
came out. Rebirth was doomed in that sense, and it sucks too,
Right.
because Rebirth is, in my opinion, one of the best games Modern Square has ever made, and it deserves a bigger audience.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think that I think remake can go on the Switch 2 no problem if the
Mhm.
specs we're hearing are true. People are saying that
Mhm.
the Switch 2 before DLSS is about PS4 to PS4 Pro level. If
Right.
that's true, because to be fair, we heard the same thing about the Switch 1. Like we heard people saying like, "Oh, Switch 1's going to be as powerful as a PS4, maybe more." Granted, it's been almost a decade since then, so it would kind of make sense in that sense, like how much time did you buy, right?
Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, if that's true, assuming that what we're hearing about Switch 2 specs is true, if it's as powerful as a PS4 or a PS4 Pro before you account for things like DLSS, then there's no way remake doesn't run on it.
Yeah.
Rebirth, on the other hand, I find to be an interesting case because having played through the whole game now on PS5, I have said and I'll say again, that is the game that made the case for a PS5 Pro for me. Because
Mhm.
there are spots in Rebirth where I'm like, you can tell that some type of resolution scaling is kicking in and hurting the image quality. during gameplay. Like when you're running out across the open world, if you swing the camera in a way that they maybe didn't expect you to, suddenly
Mm.
you see that Cloud is not looking so hot. Like you can see jagged edges around, like and haloing around his body. Like
Mm.
it's like, oh, this is running internally at like 720p and you're bumping this all the way to 4K. Like the PS5 is struggling. So I do think that we're starting to see developers hit the limits of what the PS5 is capable of, which makes sense. It's hard to believe, but it's almost 4 years old.
Yeah.
That is weird.
And as we see those limits become apparent, I start to think something that's maxing out the PS5 is likely going to be still be hard to put on whatever Nintendo's next generation console is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
True, but I feel like they could find some way to, hopefully not a cloud version, but still maybe
Oh, please,
downgrade
no
it just
more
a
cloud
bit in order
versions.
No
to,
more cloud versions.
yeah.
Please.
Because if they put it on PC, there'll still be like a lower benchmark, I assume, so it can run on most PCs,
Mhm.
rather than have to keep it as high as possible. I'm not a PC game player for the most part, so I have no idea in that regard. But even just beyond, 7 remake and rebirth, they just put Final Fantasy 14 on Xbox. That probably give them a little bit of a bump, but man, imagine a 14 on a Switch
Ooh,
console.
Oh, that would
And
load.
yeah.
14 on a
Uh,
proper portable console would
mhm.
I think would do really well because I've played 14 on PS5 and it's an enjoyable game, but when I sit down to play games on my PS5, I don't often think of games like FF14, but something where I could take it with me, I might be like, oh, I can log in and run a mission and then, do whatever, right? Same reason that I kind
Yeah.
of wish that Sony had a proper portable out so I could play Helldivers, just, log in, do a couple missions and
Yeah.
leave.
I mean, I play 14 off my PC, but Amy plays off PS5, and she would love the chance to just chill in bed right before she goes to sleep and do some stuff in 14 before going to bed. But she has to sit in the seat, and it's different. You get cozy in your bed, and you just don't want to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
So,
I think that FF14 has insane growth potential if they get it on a Nintendo console, and obviously, the current Switch just isn't enough for it. So I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of
mhm.
new games that the Switch 2 pulls in because we'll definitely get stuff, obviously, but it'll be
Oh yeah,
interesting to see. Obviously with the Switch, we started getting people digging through their back catalogs. I mean, like, oh, we could put these out. So we'll see more of that just with games that weren't possible on the
Right.
current iteration of the hardware.
And what's interesting when you dig a little bit more into the sales or what Square is saying about their reorganization and sales and Rebirth and 16 and such. Rebirth is interesting because they say they fell short of expectations. Internal momentum didn't reach an internal target. Nothing to share. But then they also come back and say, well, they weren't necessarily bad either. But they're certainly disappointing enough that they didn't want to share them, which I find to be kind of an interesting about face. I'm guessing it probably settled somewhere between 2 and 3 million at this point, which
that
is
sounds about
half
right.
of what remake would have sold, I think, in around the same period. But again, it's exclusive to a console that less than
Th-
half of people had on the
yeah,
one remake
I've seen
was.
a lot of people interested in playing Rebirth. They
Yeah.
don't have a PS5.
Yeah.
Um, and Foam Stars obviously underperformed
Oh,
expectations too, which everybody saw
shock.
coming. Yeah, everybody saw that coming. But what's interesting is they've reorganized their development teams into 5 console teams and 1 smartphone team, which I think is smart because, pun not intended, because we've seen their gotcha games just really not take off. Like remember the first Soldier that lasted barely a year. We're
Mhm.
not really hearing a whole lot about Ever Crisis these days either. So it feels as though they really should be focusing more on console than mobile because they just don't seem to be able to tap into that mobile pie very well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's an interesting situation that Square finds themselves in. I like what Uncle Silver's saying in the chat that sales were probably decent, but not enough to cover the overreaching amount of releases. Which, yeah, I
Yeah.
suspect that some games did some heavy lifting and others just completely flopped. Right, Foam Stars being one of those.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, there were so many releases, and some people that played those smaller releases really enjoyed them. But how the heck did they get to stand out when, like, how many people remember Field Chronicles? I barely remember that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like Babylon's Fall and Triangle Strategy and like Chocobo GP all came out within like 2 months of one another. To say nothing of like, I think Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line came out a month before. What was it? Octopath Traveler 2. And it's
Yep.
like, why would
Mhm.
they, like, what were they thinking? Of course, this was going to happen when they flooded their own market like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and these
I-
aren't bad games. It's just,
No.
when you're releasing so many back to back, people have to make hard choices, right?
Yeah.
One of those being that you're just going to skip certain games.
Yeah.
Oh, Professor Bonk, you're right. Think you mean a week. It was within a week of one another. You're right. Octopath and Theater Rhythm were within 1 week of each other. That's crazy for someone like me, and I suspect a lot of other Square Enix fans who really wanted to play both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it is getting to be that time of night. So I feel like we should probably jump over to our patron topics. For those of you that don't know, patreon.com/gvgaming, where if you join at the producer tier or above, you get to select or you get to submit a topic for us to choose from each week. Each of us chooses one of your topics, and then we kind of go round robin style on those. So today I'm going to start with you, Ash. Whose topic did you pick up?
So I picked a drink to the pasts topic, and I always have to say how much I love that name. But yeah, I picked a drink to the past topic this week, and and for a very specific reason, it's topical. They asked, "What's a game you replayed endlessly during your childhood?" I had both Oracle Zelda games and would replay the first 2 or 3 dungeons and get stuck, so I'd delete my save and start it again. So the reason this is topical is because we just had an NSO Game Boy update that is reflective of the Game Boy's launched 35 years ago. Oh my
Ugh.
God, that makes me so sad to say that out loud.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the NSO Game Boy update was Super Mario Land, Alleyway, and Baseball. And I wanted to take this chance to highlight Alleyway because it is at its core just a Nintendo Breakout clone. It's Nintendo themed Breakout, but it's a damn good one that I played that game to death over and over and over again as a kid. Revisited it a lot over the years. It still holds up today, in my opinion. I was playing it last night, posted a clip from it on Twitter. And yeah, Alleyway is absolutely a game that I played nonstop. I've beaten it more times than I can even care to count. And so I thought it was topical to mention that with it getting its NSO released lately. But yeah, Alleyway, obviously Chrono Trigger as well. I've beaten Chrono Trigger. I don't even know how many times over the years, and it's my favorite game of all time. A Link to the Past as well is a game that I have played an embarrassing number of times. Ocarina of Time. But I really wanted to specifically highlight the fact that Alleyway is a game that I just could never get enough of as a kid.
Do you know who developed that, Ash?
Specifically, I mean, I know it's Nintendo in general, but no.
That's an Intelligent Systems game.
Oh, it is. You're right. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Weird to think about, isn't it? But
It
yeah.
is really weird, especially with Paper Mario, back in the limelight again with next week's release. That's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nowadays it has some Fire Emblem theming to it.
Yeah. But yeah, then they also did Duck Hunt and Donkey Kong 3 and Devil World. Yeah, that's so cool. Alleyway. Yeah. I love that.
Mhm.
Nice. How about you, Derek? What game do you keep returning to?
Oh, it always goes back to Super Mario Brothers 3. That's the one I
Oh,
played
yeah.
the most as a kid. A lot of games I would beat and I just move on to the next one or one I haven't beaten yet and tried that one out. But Mario Brothers 3, there's something special. I just kept coming back to it and playing through it again and again. Sometimes using secret levels, sometimes playing every single level, playing it co-op with friends that came over, what have you. Just constantly playing and replaying that game. I just know it back to front. And I mean, it's my favorite game of all time for a reason. It's just endlessly replayable to me, and I just love it to death. For more modern games that I just not more modern, but other game, I guess more handheld game, Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
I
Fair.
would I would actually I know I wouldn't delete it, but I would get I played through both red and blue and yellow and traded just amongst myself so I can get all the Pokemon and fill out the
Nice.
Pokedex. So
Nice.
I played through the
Love
game
that.
3 times and I did the same thing for gold and silver. But yeah, handheld wise, it was Pokemon. There was nothing quite like it at the time. You just wanted to just get all of them, have that adventure. I remember specifically for Pokemon Yellow, I had to make an Ash team. I just my team was Ashes, and I just kept it that way. So I never evolved
Nice.
Squirtle. I never evolved Bulbasaur. Had the Charizard, that sort of thing. So
Nice.
I might have only caught the Pokemon he caught. I forget, but yeah, I basically had an Ash run.
Love it.
Sweet.
The best
Uh,
run.
for
Yeah.
me, my game, Ash mentioned it already, but it's Ocarina of Time.
Nice.
Ocarina of Time came out when I was like 15 years old. I obsessed over it. I played it to death probably 5 or 6 times in the year following its release, and every now and then I just pick it up and do another run through it just because I
Oh
mean, at
yeah.
this point it's such an easy game to get through because I know all the beats, I know that game
Oh yeah.
front to back, and I just adore it. I still to this day think it's one of the most tightly crafted Zelda games ever. It's so much fun to play, uh, even when you know everything that's going to happen beforehand. But yeah, that would be mine. It's
So
more
good.
more than Chrono Trigger, more than any other. It's just a game I really enjoy replaying. Even if there are games I like more than it, to me it's probably the most replayable game I've ever played.
That's yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
can't
makes
argue with
sense.
that. I also feel that way about A Link to the Past. Like they're both so incredibly replayable. But there's something about Ocarina of Time's atmosphere, though, that holds up to this day. That game still, even in 2024, has such a very specific atmosphere to it that really
Yeah.
hasn't ever been replicated in any other game, even on N64. And part of that is because of the N64's low poly graphics. But still, like when you step into the Forest Temple and you hear that song, and it feels so haunting and you feel so isolated, almost like Metroid. It's something about that game's atmosphere still cooks to this very day.
Oh,
It's crazy,
absolutely.
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, Majora's Mask Online is also an excellent game.
Oh,
I
definitely.
The N64 Zelda duology is just fantastic. But thank you so much for the who was it? Drink to the Past that offered that
Yes.
question. Derek, let's go ahead and get your patron topic.
I went nice and simple this time with Wataniac. When's the last time you all wore a suit or otherwise got dressed up all nice and fancy? Do you like dressing up? And I'm going to answer the second question first. No, I don't like dressing up. I
Yeah.
like to be as comfortable as possible. I will do it, but usually only for weddings. It's
Me-
like that's about the most I can get dressed up for.
I'm gonna
What were we
make a
about to say, Steve?
wager on this
Uh,
one
Oh,
because I think Ash and I have literally the exact same answers for the exact same reasons.
oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm gonna go 2 for 2 on this one, hopefully. So, oh, maybe not. Ash has a much more full life than me. But,
Not as much as you think.
so
Trust me.
one, I like dressing up. I like looking fancy. I'm a fancy lad. I like it. I'm not gonna apologize for it, but it is a lot of work, and I seldom have the energy to do it. But when I do, I try to go all out. Anyway, the last one was our good friend John's wedding. Ash and I were both there, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming that since then Ash hasn't had a reason to bust out the suit, but I could be wrong.
Thank God you're right. No, I too will answer the second question first. I fucking hate dressing up. I
Really,
mean, I hate it
I
so
love it
much
so
because,
much.
well, there are two reasons. Like you, Derek, I like being comfortable. I dress for comfort. But the other thing is for me, and y'all know, I love the cold, and a big part
Mm,
of that is I get hot really easily, and I hate being hot. And for me, literally anything more than one layer is too many for me. I hate having a shirt underneath a coat, underneath whatever. I'm wearing a
right.
t-shirt right now, and that's it. Well, and shorts, assumedly. But yeah, I don't like layers. Anything more than one layer, I get hot and I hate it. I do like the way I look when I dress up, and I will admit, like once I was dressed up at John's wedding, like I sent a picture to my wife, and she's like, "Oh, you're looking so good," and
Well,
I like the way it feels
yeah,
to look
that's the
dressed up.
ego boost. You show those type of pictures
Yeah,
to like your significant other, and all of a sudden, like, oh, I like it. It's like, damn
yeah,
it.
and that's like the one good
Yeah.
part of it, but I was when I was getting ready and putting on the suit once I'd arrived, I was sweating, I was just, like, drenched in sweat, and, like, the whole time we were at the dinner, as beautiful as it was, I had the jacket on, I was sweating, I felt hot and gross. No, I hate dressing up.
Oh,
One layer for me.
that's so
One layer.
funny. I feel totally fine in a suit. Like I don't feel warmer than
Yeah.
usual. It's weird because I generally run hot. Like I generally get hot
Mm,
pretty easily, but in a suit
Mhm.
I usually feel okay, and I'm usually wearing like a t-shirt under the under the like button up shirt just because
Oh,
I don't like the
can't.
feel of most dress shirts against my bare skin, so I
Okay.
put a
Mhm.
t-shirt on underneath. Also, it gives me the ability that if it does actually become too hot, I can take the dress shirt off
Right.
and then there's a
That's
t-shirt.
true.
So, but I'm gonna rewind even further, Ash,
Ooh.
because the last time I wore a suit before that was when I went to the Mario movie premiere
I
with you.
think the same for me. I think that was the last time I wore a suit too. It's the Mario movie premiere. I'm pretty sure.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I
You,
do as few things as possible that would require me to wear a suit.
you guys will laugh at when the last time I wore a suit.
When?
It was it was it's I think it's kind of technicality, but I think it still counts. During my during my Yakuza Zero subathon, I got a
Oh,
suit like Kiryu wears
Nice.
and wore it like he does, but you can properly button that thing up and make it look legit. And honestly, again, I got the effect of Amy's like that looks good. It's like so
Hmm.
like okay, I guess next time I have to go somewhere and dress up, I'm just gonna be Kiryu.
See, I love it. If
nice.
I would wear a suit to GVG cast if it was appropriate. If
Oh,
if if y'all
I
want me to do
can't.
that, I just might.
And I think John likes dressing up too.
John does. John
Oh
was
yeah.
a shirt and tie man
I am
for
not a
The
I am
channel
not a
started
dapper
with him
boy.
just be suit and tie all the time. I don't think he does it as much anymore because fatherhood.
yeah. There's
Like
something funny about having a baby.
for me, the most dressing up I ever really want to do, if I ever have to, is like jeans and a dress shirt. And the dress shirt is the only layer. Like
I
that is it.
love this idea. Cool Sebastian in the chat. Steve, you should dress up when you guys react to the game. I will do it. I will get a you know what? I will wear a full suit and tie for the game awards in my
Um,
house.
see now
Like,
I
I
feel like
won't
I
go
have
to the
to as
game
well.
Now
awards. I
Ash
will
feels like he has the
Ugh,
pressure now that he
now I
has
feel
to
like I
do it.
have to. God, no.
you know what? I should just do the game awards and like stand in front of the TV in my living room with a handheld mic and just stream it the same way Jeff Keighley's doing on stage.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just pretend he's throwing it back to me. I'll be like, "Thanks, Jeff. Watching a trailer, world premiere time, Jeff. Nice
Yeah.
shoes, Jeff."
Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess I can throw in the Kiryu fit for that
There we go. I love
if we're
this.
doing it.
I
I
mean, if
will
we're all doing
absolutely
it, I'm
just
gonna
sit
have
on
to
the
do it
couch in a
too.
suit watching the game awards. We're doing this. I will
But
you know what? GVG
Now
community, if you
now
guys do this with us, we
now
will
you all have
retweet
to
your pictures of
remember.
you.
Now you all have to remember when the Game Awards actually comes around. That's 6 months from now. It is
That's
even yeah,
that's right.
7 months really. So
That's
you
right.
know, it's
If
funny thinking about this this is something I've actually thought of actively while playing Ace Attorney, and you made me think of it. Seeing your name, Hobo Phoenix 24, I have actively thought about how much more comfortable Phoenix must be in Ace Attorney 4 than in any other game in the series because he just gets to wear a hoodie and a beanie and like slacks or something or jeans.
yeah, but you gotta admit he looks pretty damn good when he suits back up again
Oh,
in
he does.
Dual
oh,
Destinies.
I'm
He does. He
Even
does.
gets the pocket watch thing. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn it,
I do love
pocket
that.
watch looks good.
But I guess if we're all gonna do it, I'll bring out the suit for the game awards as well. I'll make sure
yeah,
to
you know,
get it cleaned.
if we get I don't even know what a good number is because I don't do the whole Twitch monetization thing very well, as you all know. But if we reach, I'll let Derek, our resident Twitch
Oh
maestro,
God.
decide if we hit a certain number of Twitch subs, I'll just do a GVG cast in a suit like I did for the bathtub thing. If y'all
I
want me to, I'll wear a suit and tie for this.
I'm not sure to see the back end, see what it should be, but I my
Oh my
guess
god,
would
Daniel will
be
make the overlay have a suit.
Nice.
I don't know. I just like I don't know how ambitious we want to be with this. If you want to go down that road, I have to kind of look at it because I don't want to throw out a number and feel like that's too much or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know how many we
Because
have.
my
So
thought because I guess the number I immediately went to is that whole partner plus thing. Just make that the goal,
there we go. If we hit partner plus, I
and
I'm
that's a lot
committing
of
to
work.
this to you guys without even knowing what I'm saying. If we hit partner plus, I'll wear a suit for a
I think
month
that's
of GVG casts.
I think that's
I'm not committing to that. There's a month.
Yeah,
That's 4 times. That's
that's
four
four
times wearing a
times.
suit in 1 month, man.
I'll do it.
Can I come dressed as Parappa
Yeah,
instead?
see, Daniel will wear a suit too. Me and Daniel will turn
Uh,
GVG cast
Oh gosh,
fancy.
I just realized I didn't even think about that, Daniel. We haven't reached partner on here.
Oh, Vedran, you had my thought. Yeah, I just saw. You'll just come dressed as Parappa. Yeah, can I just do? I have my beanie right here. Can I just come dressed as Parappa? Slacks and tank top.
Listen, Daniel and I will carry this across the finish line. Dapper as fuck.
We probably should. I think we should be able to apply for partner at this point. I would think. I've not looked at the back end too much, but Daniel would know that best.
Bring a boombox, says Caitlin. Yeah, I'll if whatever I can do to get out of getting in a suit 4 times in 1 month, I'll do it. I'll do it.
I'm
At the
doing
very
it.
least, if I have to, you guys going to hear this fan that I have next to me because I can't be in that many layers for that many hours without having a fan on.
Oh man.
Here you go, Ash. For the Game Awards one, every time you have to pick a company. Every time a world premiere is from that company, you get to take off an article of clothing.
Okay.
Cool off.
There we go.
All right. That could get spicy, fairly
It
quickly.
could get
depending on how-
spicy depending on who you pick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna it'll be Suit Steve and Dapper Daniel. We'll do it. We'll carry this.
Nice.
All right.
Oh,
So
I
we've
love
got
it.
one more patron topic before we close out the show. We got on a tangent.
We did.
Anyway,
That was supposed to be a short, easy one. It just turned into something.
yeah. Mine
Thank you,
comes from
Daniac.
Young Ben Kenobi, who writes, "What's up, GVG crew? My question is this. What's your views on video game difficulty? As I've been getting older and fully into adult life, I've been finding I have less and less time for gaming. So I've found myself preferring to play on easier difficulties for a lot of games so I can get through all the games I want in the limited amount of time I have. I respect those who can play a game on the hardest difficulty, but I don't have the time to keep dying over and over until I beat a boss if I want to be able to finish more than one game every 6 months. I know some people, not you guys, look down on people who play on easy, and I was just curious to hear your opinions on it." Well, I have no problem with people playing a game how they want to play it as long as it doesn't harm the experience for other people playing the game. So, first off, if you're playing single player, I don't care what you do. I don't care
Yeah.
what you do at all. Play it on easy, play it on very easy. As long as you're not somehow coming in and destroying my gameplay, do what you like. It's your game. Play it how you
Yeah.
want. If you're in multiplayer, the only thing I really care about is if you're cheating. Like if you cheat, you know.
Right.
And even then, I care significantly more if it's a competitive game. If it's like a PvE co-op game and you're cheating, I might leave, but I won't really care. I'll more leave out of a sense of self-preservation that I don't want to get banned because I played with a cheater. But play your games how you want to play them. Easy, hard, whatever. It's something in between. You know, I tend to dynamically shift the difficulty in games that allow it based on how frustrated I am at that moment. Like if something is just really just giving me a hard time and I'm getting sick of it to the point where I'm no longer having fun, I'll bust it down. I'll be like, let's just get through this encounter and then put it back up.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I have the time later on to go back through that same thing once I've maybe leveled up or gotten better, then yeah, I'll do that. I definitely knocked it down I didn't knock it down in Rebirth, but in Remake, I knocked it down in 2 specific encounters I can remember.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I feel basically the same way. I video games are meant to be fun first and foremost, and what fun is varies from person to person. Some people want to be incredibly challenged every moment, and that's fun to them, and that's how you want to play the game. Great. If you want to coast through on very easy, great. It's your game. It's meant to be fun, whatever that means to you. The thing I will add on top of that, though, is fuck gatekeepers and gatekeeping. I can't stand gatekeepers. And people were like, well, you're not a real gamer if blank, if you're not playing the right kinds of games, if you're not playing every game at the hardest difficulty. Screw that nonsense. If you like video games, you like video games. That's it. I hate gatekeeping. I guess the one other thing I'll say about this is while I like from soft games typically don't appeal to me because I don't really like that head banging difficulty in my games other than rhythm games because I'm good at rhythm games and so I tend to play them at the highest difficulty. But I'm not really into Souls-like games. And while I think that those games would have a bigger audience if they offered easier difficulties, I take exception with people saying they should be forced to add easier difficulties. Like no developer should be like they should be able to make the game they want to make. If that's not part of their vision, I think it sucks that people who want to play those games but aren't as good at them may lose out. But I don't think a developer should be forced to add an easy mode in a game if
That
that's
is
not what
their
they want to
decision
do.
about how wide of a net they cast. And
Yeah.
amazingly, having that level of difficulty brought in people who were looking for that level of
Yeah.
difficulty. They found a niche. And trust me, finding a niche is a big deal. If you can find that niche that people click with, you stick with it.
Yeah. And Caitlin,
Um,
I agree with you. I totally agree. The only gameplay thing I hate about difficulty is when content is locked behind hard modes. I hate that. Totally
Yeah.
agree with you.
mhm. I mean, I'm guessing I'd be echoing these two. So I would just say that for me personally, like, I typically just play on normal. Like, yeah, I might have limited
Same.
time, but I want to play the game as it was intended. And to me, it's always the standard difficulty that's applied. If I really enjoy it, I'll go back through on a harder difficulty, like I did with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and just enjoyed that. But for the most part, I just play as the default. And yeah, I'll get frustrated sometimes, like Steve, but I built up a stubbornness from playing through all the Castlevanias.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, nope, I'm not backing down. I'm just gonna get it done. That's the goal. Unless I am just absolutely not having fun, because there's some fun in just trying to figure out and having that beat you down over and over again. So I'll be getting a lesson in that when I finally start playing these Mega Man games, Ash. So I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically. Oh boy, Mega Man and bass.
Yeah. I mean, well, and on that note, like I love it when the games I love, even if they tend to be hard ones, like I love it when they're more accessible to more people. So like I love for example that the Mega Man Legacy collections have Rewind for the first one and then have like the
Mhm.
Super Armor mode for the second one, because for me, these games are easy. But for a lot of other people who are not used to them, they're really hard. But
Yeah.
I want there to be more Mega Man fans. So abuse the hell out of Rewind. Play it on easy mode.
Yeah.
If it brings more people into Mega Man, great. Make it more accessible. I love that.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. I think that difficulty in games is a pretty easy one to be on the right side of. It's really weird when people want games to be less accessible. I mean, more people playing means we get more games. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see that from all the Square Enix news
the-
this week. If more
Did the
people
person
bought
have
those
fun?
games, they wouldn't.
Great.
They'd still be making more.
Yeah. Totally.
But that's going to do it for us. It is the witching hour, so to speak. That's good. This is the end of episode 103 of the GVG cast. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us this week. It obviously means the world to us, but we do have to give an extra special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Again, patreon.com/gvgaming if you'd like to find out how to join them. But this is the time in the show where we give a shout out to all our supporters on Patreon at the producer tier and above. Their names are scrolling across the screen right now. I am bringing Derek back for those of you wondering. I hid him from the world. But we have to give an extra special thank you to our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. Y'all know who you are. You're all wonderful people. But in case you forgot, those folks are Brandon Bovia, Cutie Caitlin, Fangs, Z Patty, Sky Blue Flames, Eastman 23, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Logan Daniel, The D-Pad, Blake, Joy Content, Angel Martinez, Vedron, Joshua Hunter, Benny Yao, Azran127, Black King, Geeky Griffin, Wataniac, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Andrew Maderos, Darchi, Becca, Esax08, Michael McCaw, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber CPHT, Too Much Spaghetti, Bane 400, Ascaron 809, Reoner, Benji Bearpup, The Game Orb, Super Gamer Dude 101, Ravelox, my mom, hi mom, Dark Steel 01, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Cystic Warrior 29, Derek, Colin, Blaze-Star 25, Twilord, Jackomon, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Keel, Hustlebun, Noah Fitterer, Calvin Atkinson, Brainchild, Jim Wakelin, Andy Mine P, Aramis Baramis, Lord Metarux, Blaze Collard, Eric, Cat Evie Person 5, Mega Beatman True Blue Reviews, Ryan Hanley, Somnia, The Game Jamie, Zombie Joe, and last but not least, Marathon Max. Woo, that is a list. My
Yeah,
my
it is.
voice is not used to doing that. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for supporting us. If you're on that list of folks we just read out, or at any tier on our Patreon, we appreciate you. We'll be back with episode 104 of the GVG Cast next Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You know where to be. For those of you that are in our Patreon, we are headed to our patron exclusive post show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. This is the end of episode 103, and until next time, folks, good night and good vibes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.